Daily Big Show with Jim Check and Ian Burns.
Good morning, all. I'm Jim Check, sporting a nice little vest. What do you think? I like it. With me on the other side of the screen, all in blue today. This is supposed to be blue. I think I'm way too bright. This is a blue shirt. And Ian Burns on the other side of the screen out there in Ottawa. We had a fire here yesterday in Kelowna. We'll talk about that in a bit here. We had a wildfire. Our headline this morning, though, CBC. The science is in, as Fauci would say. The science is, we are the science. Experts say CBC is a liberal PR firm and not much else. And we're going to show you some evidence of that as we do this show here. And it's an important one, right? Because media is part of the problem here in Canada. A big part of the problem. The ones that act as shield and spear, that block us from getting access. We got lots to show you on that here today. Also want to say, Ian and I are really committed to the truth. And sometimes some people don't like the truth. I know that we got a lot of negative comments yesterday when Ian called something out, and we got a little bit of, we're not going to be an echo chamber. We're going to just call it as it is. And it's an opinion-based news program. Probably the best one there is in Canada for truth. We don't have to kowtow to Mark Carney or Pierre Poilievre or anybody for that matter. The only people that we're kowtowing to is you, the reader, the viewer. That's who we kowtow to. Because I mean, if we can't provide value to you, we got nothing else. It'll just be me and Ian talking to ourselves, and that won't be much fun. But yeah, I mean that's the truth of the matter, right? Like yesterday, I want to put this out to you because some people follow some accounts out there that are more like echo chambers as well, and I want to caution you on that as well. Not to say that they're not doing good work, but I mean we have to be really careful to not inflame things as well. I mean it is the responsibility of media to hold government accountable. But this one here, there was a wildfire here. Actually, probably while we were on, our camera's just a bit off of that. So that fire's across the lake from us. That's in West Kelowna. But, that headline that he was running, the massive fire surrounding the town of Kelowna, BC, evacuations underway. There was no fire in Kelowna, period, and they weren't surrounding the town of Kelowna, BC. It was a small wildfire that was out within hours. We live streamed the full fire. We had it on it. We swiveled our camera over there and live streamed the full fire. I think they were on the fire. They were actioning the fire with air support within, I don't know, an hour. They were actioning the fire, and it's right near the lake, so it didn't take long for the bombers and the helicopters to do their work. And there's not a lot of wildfires in the area, so that fire was actioned pretty quickly. And Calamore Park is, like I said, in West Kelowna. I'm not saying that no slagging on Mr. Sunshine Baby there, but I mean just be cautious. Like go and confirm it too, right? Like because I mean that if you're from Kelowna and you read that, you think, oh my God, not again, because we've had some massive wildfires in Kelowna. Like Ian and I are pretty calm when it comes to wildfires. We know what's going on. We've had some massive ones in 2003 when 100, close to 160 homes burned. And then a couple of years ago in West Kelowna there when we lost, I think in the 200 plus zone and the fire jumped the lake as well. We've had fires on the connections. I've stood on the fire lines. Taking photos. We have some of the best photography going. Like actually we've had reach outs from major publications worldwide. We've sent our stuff to even like the Globe and Mail. They've used our stuff because obviously Kelowna is a hotbed literally for wildfires. But this kind of stuff drives away tourism in that too. So this headline or this thing as an audience is not responsible. That's what I'm trying to say. And all evacuations are now lifted. Now you can put up the other image there. All evacuations lifted in West Kelowna as that wildfire is now held. And that was the extent of the wildfire there. It never had a chance really to become a massive wildfire, just based on the logistics of where that wildfire is, right? I mean, it was windy yesterday though.
My 2 cents is asking about the what caused the fire. BC Wildfire Service thinks humans.
You can almost
for most fires are human caused or suspected to be.
You can almost bet on it, like a 90, as Fauci would say, 95% chance that any interface fires near cities are going to be human caused in some way. Some intentional, some accidental. I mean, this one here is in a fairly populated area, and again, there's a lot of homelessness out there, and it could have been that as well. I mean, when the forest gets dry and there's a lot of tinder, doesn't take much, right? It doesn't take much, and it's not the climate that caused it. It was obviously carelessness or intentional. I mean, again, most interface fires, if they were random like climate change caused, they'd be all over the place. In British Columbia, what, like 98% of it is remote? They wouldn't be all next to a city. How's that?
Well, the only other cause usually is lightning, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
There was none yesterday.
yeah, there was none. Unless it was a chipmunk with a lighter.
A chipmunk with two sticks, and he was just like rubbing the sticks together.
Jousting chipmunks, and the friction caused a spark.
Maybe it was the bears. Maybe it was the Liberals antagonizing the mother bear again. I don't know. Anyway, that's you could have watched. We live streamed the full fire. If you had came to Kelowna Now, we had it on our Kelowna Now YouTube channel. We didn't put it on here. Ian and I talked about putting it on here. We thought, well, that would be just confusing. So we did put it on the Best of Kelowna. It was on that being live streamed and on the Kelowna Now X account. But here's the bigger story when we're talking about CBC. It's ridiculous. So CBC, even their top guy, David Cochrane, was along for the ride. David Cochrane riding in the jet with Marky Mark. And no one-on-one interview. But who gets an interview? Katlin Collins. Katlin Collins, I like Katlin Collins. Katlin Collins of CNN. As Trump calls her, what, sourpuss or sour face or something like that? She never smiles. She's a terrible reporter. She never smiles. But here's Terry Newman from the National Post. It's like, and it's true, Carney will do interviews with American news outlets. He did one in Ireland too. He did a sit down. And CBC along for the ride, $1.6 billion. And they can't even get an interview. They are shameful. They must feel absolutely, or do they just feel like, oh, well, we're along for the ride? Or do they just feel absolute, just like they get no respect. They get no respect from the Canadian public, and they're getting no respect from Mark Carney. It's absolutely embarrassing. Like if I was David Cochrane, I'd resign today, just out of pure embarrassment of what the CBC is. And we're going to show you a lot more proof of how far the CBC has fallen. And I used to like the CBC, but I mean, they are not the voice of Canada. They are basically a PR department for this man right here. But let's listen to Katlin Collins as she got an interview with Mark Carney here. This is a small clip of that interview.
Did you actually see the agreement itself?
I've seen the agreement, yes.
Oh, so the president showed it to you?
Well, I've seen the agreement. We have our sources, just like you.
Okay. Well, we haven't seen it publicly. It hasn't been released. Is it true it's about a page and a half?
It is a reasonable length for an agreement, which is in effect, it is a cessation of hostilities. It's a ceasefire for that 60-day period, as you know. But it sets out a series of conditions and what will happen when they are fulfilled. So I think it's well structured from our perspective. But I think as well is the regional countries are behind it. Of course, we met with the UAE, with the Qataris, the Egyptians. We have contacts as well. And again, it's well structured. It creates, I actually think, I think it's a game changer, not just for this situation, because it starts to take off certainly this issue, but it allows us, and this is what's happened in the meeting, to step back, look anew at Ukraine.
Yeah.
Ukraine situation. We had a very, very constructive conversation around Ukraine.
Someone should have briefed Katlin Collins on the problems we have in Canada with getting straight answers. And she should have went to town on them, because Katlin Collins wouldn't have backed off. But I mean, she was just trying to get stuff on what was going on with G7.
Yeah. CNN and Katlin Collins don't care about domestic Canadian issues. No. Obviously. Why would they? That's the job of the Canadian media. And the Canadian media don't ask those questions. And the ones who would ask those questions don't get access in the first place to ask those questions. And, I had quite an epic rant yesterday, I'll confess, about the media. And I was being rather cheeky, and I compared Canada's media system, the political media interface, to Turkey, which is a sort of quasi-authoritarian, I mean, it's pretty much authoritarian country, with a managed press. It's been rather cheeky, and then we got that somebody went to the length of getting an AI chatbot to write a response to that. So now we know what an AI chatbot thinks. And I thought, all right, just for a laugh, I'm going to go on a chatbot as well. And I'm going to ask about the press in Turkey, right? And I'm going to read the description. Here we go. It says, Turkey's press gets formal access to Erdogan, so that's the leader of Turkey, but not much independent access. He appears constantly in Turkish media, but the access is heavily managed. Speeches, palace events, pool coverage, friendly TV interviews, and selected journalists on foreign trip flights. The more useful question is whether reporters can put him under pressure. Usually no. and then it lists it. Access is selective and it's controlled through accreditation. Wow, so this is so familiar. Questions are often soft or managed. Again, that just sounds so familiar. Most mainstream media are either friendly to or dependent on the government. What are we reading here, fellas? And it goes on and on and on, and it's kind of pro-government outlets get proximity, independent journalists not so much. I mean, the whole thing is like a description of the Canadian media. If you want to put your head in the sand and pretend that that's not happening in Canada, then I mean, I guess good for you. But like we were saying yesterday when we were talking about Trump, or I was talking about Trump, I much prefer reality. I much prefer the real world, because creating your own fiction and your own illusion just leaves you mired in ignorance. You're never going to learn anything. You're just going to be trapped forever. You're never going to grow. You're never going to evolve. And what is this if not confirmation that Mark Carney and the Liberal Party and the Canadian political media system is very, very restricted. It's very limited. He will go and speak to foreign press who don't know anything about Canada, and he'll mumble away and try and play the statesman. Then he'll come back to Canada, and some sort of palace scribe, as Sam Cooper described them, palace scribe like David Cochrane, will ask a softball question and nothing will happen. There is never any real pressure. The media is not independent. They don't ask difficult questions. Access is restricted through various means. The media is funded by the governing party using taxpayers' money. They're reliant on the government to survive. The whole thing is a basket of stinky fish, as we've said many times in the past.
And if you watch that interview and you look at Mark Carney, if you do those when they have those experts come in and do body language and that, it's like he wanted to be like part of the cool kids there. So he's actually going out of his way to act like, oh, I saw it. I got to see it. I'm on the in group. I'm the guy. And he was like so like eager to talk to Katlin Collins. So eager, because I mean, Katlin Collins, again, you know, a lot of people say CNN is like a bad network. They used to be a great network. And then, but Katlin Collins has like a big, large following. And, you know, actually out of CNN, I do like Katlin Collins. She can get to questions. Like, she'll stand in the storm. And we'd rather have Mark Carney allow us access, like Trump allows access to Katlin Collins, even though he calls her out all the time. Allow Ian and I access. Call us whatever you want to call us. Call us garbage, call us crap, call us the stupidest reporters ever, say we're frauds, and then just answer our question. That's all we want, right? We don't really care what you call us.
Was it ABC or CBS, whatever it was, where he walked out of the interview? Yeah. We'll take that too. Yeah. We'll take an hour-long interview with Mark Carney where he walks out at the end. Yeah. We'll take that. But a lot of people, like, and I'm sure this is true of liberal-inclined people with an uppercase L in this country, they'll have looked at that and they'll say, "Oh, he's so anti-democratic. He won't even sit for interviews. He just walks out," ignoring the part where he sat down with an outlet that is vehemently hostile.
Yeah.
And not on a rational basis a lot of the time, like emotionally hostile to Donald Trump and the Republican Party. And yet he sat down for ages, absolutely ages, and had a conversation with him. Mark Carney would never, ever do that. He hasn't done that. He's never done it, and he never will, because Mark Carney does not have the same attitude to the free press, to the notion of the free press, or a free press.
We dare you. Come on this show for an hour. Give us an hour. Storm out if you want. That was Kristen Welker with Meet the Press. That's what that show was. That was Kristen Welker, and she is like hostile. Like on the hostility scale, I think only Rachel Maddow might be more vehement than her. And we're going to show you later in the show, J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, went into the witch's den. We're going to show you that later. He literally goes into the witch's den. Mark Carney will not even do puff interviews with his corrupted media. And there's David Cochrane. You should resign. You should quit, because like you've shown what you're worth. Like you couldn't even get an interview. You let Katlin Collins show you up. You're on the plane, stuffing your face with sausage rolls that we paid for. We paid for those goddamn. Whoops. We paid for those sausage rolls.
What J.D. Vance did there, the only possible analogy that I can come up with is, who's the number two in this government? I guess somebody like Tim Hodgson, Anita Anand, or somebody like that. One of the big hitters in the Carney government, Melanie Jolie maybe, going and sitting down in a studio with Ezra Levant and the Rebel News people. Yeah. Or maybe Juno, but I don't think that's fair. Juno are way more rational.
Rebel.
And, sophisticated than The View. What do people watch The View? Have you seen The View? Have you seen how insane The View is? I mean, Ezra Levant is vastly more rational and intellectually sophisticated than The View. But still, just for the sake of argument, it is the equivalent of Melanie Jolie or Champagne or somebody like that, sitting down there next to Ezra Levant, the bloke that wears the straw hat, and just like submitting himself to an interview. Would that ever happen? No, because the Liberal Party overlords in this country are not inclined that way. They don't have that democratic instinct. Whereas Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, say what you will about them, they both have the democratic instinct, don't they? At least when it comes to arguing your point to the American people and being held to account by people that hate you. And, in a very sort of dishonest, emotional fashion, which is true of the people on The View. They absolutely despise Trump. They hate him before he opens his mouth.
Evident.
They loathe that man.
They couldn't. They were just like a pack of wolves, and we're going to show you a small clip of it. It was painful to watch. It was so painful. J.D. Vance handled himself unbelievably well in that, and kudos to him for going on it. But like I said, the United States of America has the freest democracy in the world, and that much is evident. And in Canada, instead of emulating that, we continue to walk away from it and look at it and try to convince the Canadian public that the America is the one that's in the wrong, and that Canada is the one protecting its citizens. We're protecting a government here. We're protecting an authoritarian government. That's what we're doing here, and they're not allowing access. So this 14-point plan, or whatever this 14-point plan or whatever it is, CNN got it after that, because it probably Katlin went and said, "How did he get it? He got a look. Why don't we get a look?" So they got the draft, and we're going to kind of just talk about some of the points in there. This is draft, remember. The final version will likely show up on Friday. There may be tweaks to it. And in this draft, I don't know if you want to hit some of these highlights, Ian.
Well, I mean, the most interesting points. This is also, by the way, this is not unique to CNN. Few people have got it. Yeah. What says here, Bloomberg had it. Somebody else had it as well.
Yeah, well, they put it out to everybody. They chucked it out there now, right?
Yeah, it's been in, as you say, draft. This is not necessarily the official document, but we've known the 14 points for quite a while now, loosely speaking. Anyway, what came out to me that was interesting is this here. The end of the war on what they say, what they call all fronts, including Lebanon. Obviously, the Americans are not involved in that, and they didn't want that. That's Israel's war. And we're seeing a lot of conflict between Netanyahu and Trump over this, because obviously that can sabotage the whole thing. When the Americans, well, Trump even said, like, I think he literally said, or paraphrasing Trump, he said something like, "We don't care about Lebanon," or it's like, it's not an important part of this war. But the Iranians have pushed for that to be in there, because obviously Iran controls Hezbollah, a sort of terrorist gang of some sort, Islamic gangsters, Shia Islamic gangsters, who've kind of colonized Lebanon and trashed the country of Lebanon. Iran likes that, because then they have access to the Mediterranean, and it's just next to Israel, so they can cause trouble for the Israelis. This one is just not very interesting. Point number 2 about sovereignty and territorial integrity. I mean, I suppose this is interesting, not to refrain from interfering in each other's internal affairs, because obviously Iran interferes in America's internal affairs all the time, not just a one-way street. No. So that, I mean, that's interesting. That won't be there's no way that will be lived up to. They're not going to abide by that. That's ridiculous. This number 3 just confirms that it's basically a 60-day sort of ceasefire before they get a deal. And then this is about the so no more Strait of Hormuz blockade and no more American blockade of Iranian ports in the Persian Gulf. We already knew about that. That was sort of the main beef of it. This one here, this is astonishing. Financing of $300 billion for Iran. And the United States says it'll help to get this $300 billion to Iran to sort of rebuild the country. Obviously, that's very controversial, and they're going to have to explain where that money's coming from and why they should get that money. Well, especially when
there has been some explainers out there saying it's coming from oil sales because they're going to open the market up and allow them to sell their oil into the market, which they haven't been able to do. They've been selling their oil in the black market, as per se, like to China and to different places like that. But they'll be able to access the world market, and that's where they say most of that money come from. And some of it will come from seized money that's been seized, because I mean, if everybody uses the SWIFT system, a lot of that money, no different than the Russian money, is seized through that SWIFT system. But you can also see in the market, as I interject here, the markets have already really like front run this, and oil now down to $76 a barrel. So the oil markets definitely seeing supply coming on. And if Iranian oil comes back like months out, if Iranian oil comes back into the world markets as well, Venezuelan oil comes into the world markets, Iranian oil comes into the world markets, Canada gets out of its own way and gets oil to the markets, the price of oil will come down substantially, and we could see, economic numbers go energy plus cheap energy equals economic activity results in higher GDP and also results in better way of life for everybody that gets access to cheap energy. I mean, it's basic. That's a basic math formula.
Yeah, it's like almost like Einstein's E equals MC squared. It's a different version of that. But it's actually related to E equals MC squared in a weird sort of abstract way. But yeah. I would also say you're talking about oil coming back online. If a trade deal is done, and it seems like peace deal is done with Russia, Ukraine, and Trump seems to really want that to happen. Everybody wants that to happen. Then that would also be Russian oil, and obviously Russia's one of the big three, one of the real big boys. And if they can get their oil out, then people like Stephen Gilboa will immediately be popping up saying
their hair will light on fire. Their hair will literally light on fire.
In the Canadian context, they're going to say, don't even dream of any pipelines because there's no point, because oil's like not at a high enough price to justify it. So they'll be secretly delighted, even though they'll pretend to be upset about it. This other one here, I mean, this is great for Iran so far, this reading, I would say. It says all types of sanctions currently facing Iran, including from unilateral US sanctions, primary and secondary, will be lifted. That's
huge for Iran.
That's like welcoming Iran back into the world. That's like the biggest. I mean, that's the biggest gift you could imagine, next to the 300 billies, wherever they're going to come from. And then point number 8, way down in the list, is a sort of very generic statement about nukes, saying Iran says it will never produce nuclear weapons. I mean, they've said that they've never changed their tune on that. They've never not said that. So that's not new information. That's not a new promise or anything like that. But then they say the fate of the enriched material, blah, 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 will be adequately addressed in a final agreement. So in other words, nothing on nuclear weapons, which is the sort of, casus belli from the United States perspective. So very, very odd. This doesn't really... Point number 9 is just an extension of number 8. And I think that's about it, isn't it? I don't think there's anything else interesting in here. This is the releasing of frozen funds. That's point number 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's it, really. And so nothing on missiles. That was the other casus belli that Trump told us about, missiles. Nothing on like a new regime, which Trump hinted at. Now he's saying there has been a regime change, because the IRGC is in full control rather than partial control, which was the previous situation. So that's how Trump's explaining the regime change element. no reference to the tens of thousands of Iranians massacred by those same people who are now in charge. Trump said that help is on the way and all the rest of it. That's all just forgotten about. But ballistic missiles, nothing at all on that, and nothing on proxies. Well, there is sort of one thing on proxies. If you look at the top with the Lebanon thing, literally point number one is, yeah, you can keep your proxies, basically. So they get to keep their proxies, they get to keep their missiles, the nuclear issues kicked down the road, all sanctions removed, $300 billion rebuilding fund, unfrozen assets. I mean, hell yeah. If you're looking at this from an Iranian perspective,
I want to look at it
that's
from the
cool.
perspective of the common person. If this goes through and it happens and they get all those sanctions lifted, this will be good for the Iranian people as a whole. I don't know about the government that's, you know, authoritarian, but I mean, a lot of those people have had a currency that is basically did like a Venezuelan thing. It's inflated into nothing. So a lot of people have lost, you know, the ability to look after themselves. So this will help their economy. And I don't know about their government style. It'll also help the world's economy, because if this oil comes on, Venezuelan oil comes on, Russian oil comes on, I mean, it'll be great for the world in general.
But I mean, let's take it in order then. For the Iranian people, what's brought the Iranian people to this low pass? Why are the Iranian people suffering so much and have suffered for 40 plus years, 50 years? Why is that? Yeah, because of these people, these shite heads who remain now in charge and look happier and stronger and more confident in the future than ever. So, I mean, if I was an Iranian on the street, yeah, a little bit of relief, maybe. Who knows? Because the government is so bad and so awful that even if good things might happen and you look and you say, all right, peace, good, this is going to be good, it doesn't necessarily filter down to the people in Iran. So that could be really tragic. And then as for the global picture, this could cement Iran's position as the regional hegemon in the Middle East. I don't think that's going to be good for the future of the global economy, to put it lightly.
I think Trump had hoped, like many people in the world, that the people of Iran would have rose up and taken control back of their country. That's what the Shah was hoping to. But we see this in countries like in Cuba right now, and people are super oppressed. We've seen in many communist countries they killed 30,000, 40,000 people in the streets. And the same thing in Canada. We're watching our rights get taken away from us, and some people are actually clapping. We're going to show you that later with Bill C-22 and all these other bills that are choking us here. And it's just like, people the government has demonstrated power over them, the Freedom Convoy, frozen bank accounts, to the point where people are scared to rise up. I mean, you kill 30,000 or 40,000 people in the streets. That's pretty tough to rise up against, right?
Absolutely. And same, we talk about Cuba as well. Like, the Iranians have lost so many of their best people.
Yeah, that have fled, yeah.
And you can find them in Canada as well, and the United States and England, the United Kingdom. They're all over the place, and they're such, like, in my experience, and I've met rather a lot of them, and have at least one in my family. They are such high caliber people. Like, it would shock and astound you how
it's the oldest civilization in the world,
and they've left Iran, and they're not going to get them back. They're not going to go back to Iran. So they're like, how do you? And the same is true of Cuba. How do you move forward as a country and do anything when your best people just leave because the government is such a pile of garbage?
Well, you think about that. The second most powerful person in the world right now, you could argue, is the second most powerful person in the world right now, you could argue, is J.D. Vance of Cuban heritage. I mean, you think about that.
Marco Rubio.
Sorry, what did I say? Oh, yeah, Marco Rubio.
Vance.
I was trying, my phone went off there and I got confused. But I mean, look at that. Well, let's get back on topic here. Mark Carney calls the war in Iran worth it now, even though memory says we'll never get involved, we're nothing to do with it. And all of a sudden he says it's worth it, as he's hanging out with the cool kids, and he says the tentative deal is a game changer.
But he also said it was a violation of international law, didn't he? So was it worth it? Is that how we look at international law, Mr. Carney? Break it, and if you like it, then it's worth it. He talks out of, I would say he talks out of both sides of his mouth. He talks out of...
You're going to say something bad.
It's like he's in a new universe. He's in one of the multiverses. He's got like 15 dimensions of
He's been
Math.
red pilled. He's been red pilled there. Listen to this clip here. On this one, you just listen to it and you just go like, I thought we were middle power. Listen up here.
Opening the Strait of Hormuz.
We will help as we can. I mean, we're not a big regional naval power. We have some assets that we can help with this. We can do some stuff on monitoring, but importantly, we can do things on the financial side, overseen on the financial side, because remember, there are assets that are being unfrozen. There's a process by which and so we can help on that. The other thing, Caitlin, if I may, we also, collectively, we have to take the lessons of this. And one of the big lessons here is that, don't be held hostage to one choke point in the global economy, whether that's for oil, whether that's for gas, whether it's for critical minerals, whether it's for a large language model, cyber capability, all things we're discussing here. So what's Canada's role? In some of these cases, we can really help in lessening.
Notice how she cuts him off once there. Yep, yeah. But I thought we were middle power. All of a sudden, we don't really have anything to contribute. What happened?
Well, it's funny. It's even worse than he said, because he said we're not really a regional power, meaning a regional naval power, meaning in the context of the Persian Gulf. It's like, yeah, that's true, Mark. Do you want to know something else that's true? Canada's not a regional naval power in North America. Canada's not a regional naval power in Hudson Bay. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, he didn't try the middle power with her because she would have said, what do you mean by middle power? Explain middle power. So he didn't even try doing the middle power stuff with her. And yeah.
Funny how he slips things in. Like, it's like, we don't have a significant naval force in the Persian Gulf. It's like, I mean, get over yourself, mate. Canada doesn't have a significant naval force anywhere on this planet, except maybe in your imagination.
Here's Zelensky there. And I was waiting for the number to drop. We haven't seen a number drop yet. And you have to be careful with ChatGPT, because I did ask ChatGPT if we contributed any more money, and it said, sure, we did. We gave another $2 billion. And it turns out that $2 billion was in the Alberta G7 summit, right? So you got to be careful. Like, and the people sending us in AI slop, like we're not going to do anything with it. So just stop wasting your time. So
yeah, any name here who loves to rant on at everything I say, but he's also right there, because he agrees with my assessment of Canada's Navy, but talks about the British Navy as well. Yeah, the Royal Navy is in a hell of a state. I mean, it's a lot better. I mean, it's like immeasurably larger and more effective than Canada's Navy, but
they still have an aircraft carrier.
Still not great.
But you still have an aircraft carrier. Here's Zelensky.
Yes, Putin has to stop this war. And I have unanimity from all the leaders and EU presidents. So we had the unanimity that Russia is not winning, losing a lot of people. And they have to make a deal as quick as possible.
That's good. That's good.
As squeaky as possible.
And we have another clip here with Marky Mark with Vladimir.
And we look where we are a year on, that bravery, your ingenuity, your determination, and the tide is turning as expected in this war, and this was part of what we just discussed. Ukraine will win. It's just a question of time. It's just a question of how much senseless slaughter Russia perpetrates. And what we see today is unity in the G7, unity.
I don't know. If I was going into battle, I'd rather have Mel Gibson give me the Cheerio speech than that. I don't know what that was. That's like even a hockey coach could deliver a better motivational, get ready for the battle kind of thing. Like, it's like he was reading off some kind of like really bad ChatGPT kind of speech. Ukraine will win. Okay.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time. I mean, the thing is, we're going through right now. For people who've been following this war, there have been many phases to this war, haven't there? There have been like most recently, before this phase began, it was the Russia's definitely going to win, guys, phase. Ukraine's going to collapse any minute. That was the sort of like
That was just
smart opinion.
well, recently as well.
Yeah, that was a few months ago. That was the smart opinion. You're reading it all over the place. You know, the usual smart outlets like The Economist and so on. You know, that's what they think they are, smart. Then we transitioned into another phase of, Ukraine's doing really well. And it by all appearances, it actually is. Its drone capacity and strategy is starting to really pay off, and it's blowing up refineries in Russia. And it's even more important than that, it's destroying Russian supply lines, like way back from the front lines using drones and killing. I mean, we don't really know how many, but certainly just a sickening number of human beings are being blown up on that front every day. And Ukraine is doing a huge amount of that killing with the drones. So it's like a positive phase for Ukraine. But like I say, for people who've been watching this war from the beginning, you're wise to this kind of thing, and you know that it does go in phases. And I would not be surprised in the least if in 3 or 4 months' time we're having a conversation about this, and it's the word on the street is Ukraine is like 10 days away from collapse or something. Because it's just been like that now since 2022. It's back and forward. And that kind of, that's where I really agree with what was that saying?
I said it's kind of how wars go.
Yeah, well, it was wars of this kind. This is like the First World War. But the First World War had the advantage of things happened. Like Russia was knocked out, and that gave Germany certain strategic maneuverability, and then America joined the Allies, and that gave the Allies fresh manpower. Like, you know, things changed and technology changed, and there was a bit of movement. But still, this is like the First World War. Yeah, and it does just grind on. And that is where I agree with Donald Trump. And Carney, actually, there a little bit. Where you focus on the human cost of this thing. This horrible slaughter of mostly like young or youngish people. It's so disgusting in the 21st century. Like, it's not like this is our first rodeo. It's not like the First World War, where that kind of industrial slaughter hadn't really happened yet. We've got no excuse. Like, we've seen this so many times, and we're seeing it again, and it's just so horrendous, just purely on the human level.
I've interviewed a couple of the young men that were in the front lines here on this show. Well, it wasn't on this show, but it was like on Now Media. I've interviewed a couple of young men. I've interviewed a couple of Canadian mercenaries that are over there fighting. You know, you can go back and watch them on our YouTube channel there. You know, and I interviewed one of the guys who was a drone pilot for the Ukrainian army. And I interviewed a 17-year-old kid that was on his way back to join the carnage. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not good. It's a lot of young lives. Actually, they're taking old people too. They're taking just bodies, warm bodies.
Yeah, in Russia, some of the videos you see, I mean, again, I watch these videos, but like I advise other people not to if you're even a little bit squeamish. But the videos you see of the Russian infantry being killed by drones, often they look like pensioners. Some of them are so old.
They're taking anybody.
Which is just like, yeah, they're taking anybody. And God, you know, where is the humanity?
Let's move over to our trade deal, because Dominic LeBlanc was there as well. Let's listen to what, you know, like they're trying to say that trade talks between Canada and the U.S. are not a one-way conversation. I mean, Dominic LeBlanc in the last month or so has had the tone that the Canadian negotiators should have had from day one. We would have a deal by now. We wouldn't have so many Canadians suffering at home on unemployment insurance as they say, oh, we have a great unemployment insurance. I mean, if anybody that's ever been on unemployment knows it's not great. Do you know what I mean? It's not great. If you have to make your payments and everything, it's barely buy enough food here in Canada with that. Trade talks between Canada is not a one-way conversation, is that according to LeBlanc. He said he had a conversation with his trade rep, Jameson Greer, about issues that are important to Canada and the Canadian economy. We'll listen to this clip here.
Does Greer consider the renewal?
2 weeks ago in Washington, you resolved 12 of the 36 issues the Americans had presented. This is what the premiers were told in the First Minister's meeting. Have you further reduced the remaining list of 24 down to another number as of today?
So I wouldn't speak for what the premiers may or may not have said publicly. I said in Washington, and Madame Charette may want to add, we made progress in resolving with Jameson a number of issues that the United States Trade Representative has raised over a number of months with Canada. In our conversation with Jameson today, we took stock of the progress over the last 2 weeks since that conversation with him in Washington, and we talked about a number of other issues that the United States raises with us, but we also talked about issues that are important to Canadian workers and the Canadian economy. So it's by no means a one-way conversation. A conversation implies that there would be an exchange of views, and Jameson is always willing to listen to what we have to say about what we think would be in the interest of Canadian workers.
Further resolution of issues.
David, you've just asked the same question twice. I'll give you the same answer. We don't negotiate the details of these issues publicly. I have said that we continue to make progress, and the conversation today with Jameson was an opportunity to build on exactly that positive work that was done 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, a couple of points just on how this is set up. There's CBC's #1 star there, David Cochran, is now a scrum reporter. And it's amazing how he got his voice through twice, right? Because that would have been the controller there telling everybody else to shut up. Cochran speaking. The PR department is speaking, right? And then he even got smacked by his boss there, Dominic LeBlanc, even smacked David Cochran. Shut her down. Shut her down, boys. You've been waiting.
That's just a lesson. There's a lesson there if there's anyone out there perceptive enough to see it and learn it, which is slaves aren't treated well by their masters.
No.
Usually, sometimes they might be treated okay, but they don't respect. A master never respects his slave, and Dave just found that out in a particularly humiliating way, didn't he?
Dave went on that trip there. He went on that trip on the taxpayer dime, on the jet there. Didn't get an interview. Didn't get any exclusives. Is a scrum reporter now. That's good job, Davey. And then gets smacked in the scrum, even though he gets favoritism and just like everybody else, calm down. Dave, go ahead. Dave, you go.
Stupid Dave. You're asking the same question twice. Yeah, I don't know. Every time these two get together and speak and try and they just try and put a happy face on it, and it's like everything's under control, like the old Iraqi propagandist. I mean, okay, I get it. You want to do that for your political reasons, but not everybody's buying it, friend. And also this bit here, we did a little story on it on the 5 things where LeBlanc, Justin Trudeau's former babysitter, says it's not a one-way conversation, implying that Canada's going up to America and prodding the chest, and we want this and we want that, and it's like, yeah, right, Dom, sure, bud, if that's what you say, sure. And another thing I thought that was quite interesting is he said, I think it was this press conference, he said, look, it's no secret the sort of things that we're talking about, the sort of things that upset the Americans, they talk about it in public all the time. And yeah, that's true. What's number 1 on that list? Just about number 1, maybe number 2, supply management. When do you ever talk about that publicly, Dom LeBlanc?
And also the Online News Act and all the bills that suppress freedom of speech and attack the online tech firms in the United States. That's what it is. That's what it comes down to. But the media in Canada, Dave and his group there, don't want to talk about that, right? Dave and the CBC don't talk about reality. And I just for poop and giggles here, I'm just going to go to the CBC website and see. I don't know, there's nothing on there that talks about it. There's just nonsense. Anyway.
Someone asks, I can't find the thing now, but I read it a minute ago. Somebody saying Janice Charette
Yeah.
I can't find it, but you know who you are. Whoever asked that was saying, isn't that Canada's chief negotiator? Why is she in France? The reason she's in France, I would wager, is because Canada's position is not quite as strong as Dom LeBlanc, the babysitter, likes to try and make us think. Because if you have to chase after the Americans because you know they're going to be at the G7, and you think, all right, let's go there, and we'll see if we can sneak in a conversation about CUSMA and the trade deal, then that sort of suggests that you're chasing them around, you know? You're not the one in the driver's seat. It's not like they're arranging these meetings to sit down and talk. It's like Canada's chasing after them. That's what it looks like to me, anyway. And the same is obviously true of the hot mic situation, where Carney was, according to CBC, Carney was denied a sit-down bilateral with Donald Trump, even though Trump gave these bilaterals to all kinds of like tiny tin pot countries in the Middle East.
Everybody, almost everybody.
Everybody got one except Canada. So so Carney had to go over, and when he was sat down there at the table, Carney had to go over and he's like, "Yo, you know that thing about the cars, bro? Like, don't worry, it's only 3%," and tell some fibs about that, saying it's capped at 49,000, even though it's not. It increases. It's a gradual increase each year, which he tried to deceive the president of the United States about. The reason he had to do that, and the reason that the Fighting Urukai is in France there, is because the Americans are playing hard to get and Canada's chasing after them. So
let's play this from Mark Carney himself here on the question was asked about his access there. The first one. We're going to play them both, but yeah.
I wouldn't take a big message from that. I had 7 or 8 discussions with President Trump over the course of the last 36 hours. I'll have more today, a wide range of subjects from the economy, relations, his birthday, artificial intelligence, Ukraine, obviously Iran, the aspects of the deal and the next steps there and how Canada can help. And good discussions with the president. So I wouldn't.
His birthday, that matters to Canadians, right? So that's he's reaching for, like, and I talked about his birthday. I got him a gift. He also says that in a later clip. I got him a gift. He really likes it. What'd you give the gift? Was it our soul? Was that what you gave for a gift? I'm not sure what you gave him as a gift.
Why don't you give him supply management? That would be a nice gift.
That'd be a gift. That'd be a gift for the Canadian taxpayer.
We could all enjoy it.
But if you look at the way Mark Carney's acted at this G7 compared to the way he acts at other meetings of world leaders that don't involve the United States of America, different chicken, isn't he? Like, you know what I mean? When he's at within Norway and Finland, then he's puffed up like some big rooster, the leader of the middle powers and everything. Here he's just not so much. Let's play this other clip here.
Canada has the ability to do several things, and we're on the path to do several things. 150 megatons of LNG by the end of the year. The short answer on that, you're already seeing with the German offtakes for example, the Silissums project. We have 2 German offtakes. There's other European offtakes in the work for Canadian LNG. And then as well, expansion of TMX, the oil pipeline, which is a project that will go ahead. The discussions with Alberta on the implementation agreement and potential new pipeline, oil pipeline to the West Coast. South Bow, which is a pipeline into the U.S. So when you total those up, it's a material amount of additional energy that Canada can provide, both in natural gas, and this is just from Western Canada. I shouldn't say just, but it's particularly from Western Canada. Obviously, there's other alternatives in the East. So it's quite substantial, and it's important to our European partners. It's important to our Asian partners. It was raised with me in a number of our bilaterals as well.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say this G7 meeting is probably the biggest dose of reality that the Liberals have gotten so far, and that's probably the most realistic discussion he's had there. He's hanging out with the kids that are talking about energy, and he has no choice but to talk energy. And LNG, which he was part of the economic advisor for Trudeau, there's no business case, and what's everybody wanting? LNG. He has no choice. And right now, Newfoundland is like, I don't care, we're selling our oil. Like, there ain't no problem with us selling our oil. So that's why he referenced, the East Coast as well. Quebec, on the other hand, is going to sit on their natural gas. Like Stephen Guilbeault is going to sit on top of the wellhead, maybe. I don't know what he's going to do. And then David Eby.
Well, yeah, like you're saying, Newfoundland saying we're selling it. Quebec saying we ain't selling it. No matter what, no matter what you say, what you do, we are not going to play a ball. Even though the people of Quebec might want that to happen, we ain't doing it. But I also find it funny that Carney, on a number of occasions, at least a couple of times, has been asked questions about energy. When he's been to one of these sort of junkets, so he's been on one of these trips, and he said, I talk about more than just energy with these people. It's like, nah,
no, you
don't. That's all anybody cares about. And that's the thing that your party has been squatting on, suffocating for 11 years. So if that's not embarrassing, Carney, I don't know if you are capable of embarrassment.
How many times has he used the word climate change around Donald Trump?
Yeah.
Do you have Julie kicking around there? Julie there? How many times has he said climate change around Trump? That's many times. But when he was just in Ireland by himself, he was at the podium with climate change and green energy and that. Not here. He's talking. He's got some issues, and he needs to get off the stick here because here's Qatar planning to get LNG capacity up to 80% pre-war level within 2 months. And, the UAE doing that additional pipeline that they're going to get that finished in a year, where they're going to go bypass the Strait of Hormuz. Like, everybody's going to push this energy online because the world's screaming for energy. And energy is coming online. So Canada. Our second headline, our alternative headline other than the CBC one, which we think is all important because I think that's what's holding back Canada, is media here in Canada and accountability. But our second headline, Canadian energy or Canadian economy may have a brighter outlook despite the liberal policies. Because it's like the pull for energy is greater than the people pushing the lid on the pot. Do you know what I mean? Like, you got a pot boiling and the liberals are trying to suppress the bubbles from getting out. But the energy is pushing really hard, and I think that people are going to start to push too because energy is prosperity. If we had to do a formula like Einstein, it would definitely be energy equals prosperity, and you can square it or whatever, exponentially greater. Canada has that ability. E equals MC squared.
But another country that has that ability, as I think with the way you've positioned these stories, I think this is what you're trying to say. Or you are saying it. A country that's very good at that and has a lot of that is Qatar, our direct rival there. If we intend to sell energy to, get your map out, get your globe out. I can try, but I don't know if it's going to be blurry. Well, that's not too bad, is it?
It's right there.
All right. So Qatar's about here, right?
Uh-huh.
The two main markets for LNG are this place here, Europe. Oh, it's censoring. This is explicit content. Anyway, in this place right here, which is Asia. Yeah, can you see it? There we go. Asia. So these are the two boys that want it. Right? You look at Qatar, it's rather exquisitely placed, isn't it? I guess that's why they call it the Middle East, folks.
Well, Canada, show how you have to go from the West Coast all the way around.
Yeah.
It's a bit of
exactly. We might be able to compete if we came from there.
Yeah.
And then we went up here over the Titanic's graveyard and gave it to Europe then. And then on the other side, sent it round to Asia. But that isn't the situation we're in. We're in a situation where it has to come from here and only here. And then, if I don't even know if I can get the South Atlantic. There you go. You got all the way around there and up. The Qataris, not only do they have a geographic advantage there, but they also have a kind of mentality advantage, don't they? They have a civilizational advantage over Canada in that they're not so stupid that they will harm themselves for some abstract nonsense like, CO2 emissions and CO2 content in the world's atmosphere. They don't give two hoots about that because they know there's nothing they can do about it. So they're not blocking themselves. So they're a serious competitor. They can eat us alive. And this is a firing shot, isn't it? This is a warning. If there's anyone in Canada smart enough to hear it, this is a massive warning. that Qatar's going to get back in the game very quickly.
Just a standing ovation for Ian there. That was our best display of the globe yet.
Except for the brief censorship there of Asia.
I know somebody putting out swaps. Yeah, you can do swaps too, right? You're just moving it around with trading things, so it's a little bit fancier for people. But I mean, Ian's global explanation there really highlights like the Liberal policies and how they really handcuff or cripple Canada. It's like someone knocks out your knees and you're supposed to like race tomorrow, right? We had an analogy yesterday. The crop has come in for Canada. The crop is in, and it's bountiful. It's bountiful with gold and silver and copper and oil and LNG and everything. And we still have policies in place that don't allow the tractors into the field. That's how you can look at it. There's people blocking the tractors from getting into the field. That's Stephen Guilbeault's, Mark Carney himself, blocking. You say, you got to put this on the tractor, you got to put this on the tractor, and we need to pay us for getting the tractor in the field. And everybody's like, what are you talking about? Oh, and then you got to get these permits, and you got to do this, and you got to do that. And then people are just like, well, it's going to take my tractor somewhere else. And here's the head of Canada's top bank saying U.S. trade deal. Here's the sane people in the room again. Top bank says U.S. trade deal too crucial to cancel. Wasn't CBC and the Globe and Mail running stories we don't need the United States? Wasn't that just recently? Wasn't that? And Mark Carney and Jolie and all of them saying we don't need that? We're going to do all our trade with Europe. There he's in Europe. He can just start mouthing off. He's there with all the Europeans. Just tell him, like, we don't want to talk to Trump. Here's that. You're going to play this clip again as he doesn't want to talk to Trump. Look at this. Watch it again. But you look at that, and it's like he's talking to the Godfather. He's there. He's like one of the lackeys out in the street there. He's like, listen, it's okay. It's we're just doing these. And Trump looks like he doesn't even know what's going on. He's just like, sure, that sounds like a good deal, right? Whatever. Go sit down.
He's gone there and he's trying to deceive the Don, literally the Don. Like I say, where he says a hard cap 49,000. No, it isn't. Read the bloody document. It increases every year. So next year, it's going to be 52,000. The year after that, 55,000. The year after that, 59,000. It keeps increasing. That's part of the deal. And that is something that the halfwit that sent us a chatbot summary, the chatbot didn't even know that. If you're watching this, Mr. Halfwit, that might be a lesson. There is a lesson in there. Sometimes humans know more than chatbots. It's not a fixed quota. It will increase. It's not a fixed 49,000 cars. And also it's EVs specifically, obviously, which the Liberal Party has repeatedly said is their North Star. It's the jewel in the crown. So as part of the EV market, it's about a quarter of the market and increasing. So, yeah, don't try and if you want to try and get something good out of the mafia boss on his birthday, the day of his birthday, then the one thing you probably should not do is try and deceive him. I just think it's so foolish. Just on a purely strategic level, if you take out any of the details, any of the context, I just think trying to deceive somebody like that is really foolish. It's a really bad strategy.
And it isn't just Ian and I that can figure it out. I'm sure that the Americans have a couple guys with a couple IQ points higher than us. Apparently, in Canada, we have people that will send us chatbot things that'll say we're conflating it. And the bigger part is this, because somebody actually asked them the question on these cars. Because why is Jolie in China right now trying to get manufacturing here in Canada? That'll be Chinese EVs made in Canada. So that's not a $49,000 cap, is it? Or 49,000. Why would they come here to build 49,000 cars? Is that all they're going to build? They're going to set up a factory for that? Listen to this here as he answers this question. As he tries to like a bad EV get around that question here.
Prime Minister Brian Platt with Bloomberg. I wanted to ask more on Chinese cars. The deal that you announced in January expected Chinese investment in Canada's auto sector. Minister Zhou Li is in China for most of this week.
Stop right there for a second. Stop right there. Stop. Did you notice his expression there when he says you mentioned Chinese investment? He was trying to disagree with that, but then he keeps going. Okay, keep going.
Of how this might happen. In Europe, Stellantis is actually starting to build Chinese EVs in its factories here. Do you expect that that's how this may play out in Canada?
I would say the following. Just so we're all on the same page, we went back to where in 2024, before we effectively, the government took steps that effectively shut the Canadian market for Chinese vehicles. Chinese automakers were exporting to Canada, paying an MFN tariff. It was about just under 7%, so the lowest tariff rate, most favored nation tariff rate. They were exporting 49,000 cars. They were all Teslas, basically. Teslas made in China. What we agreed with China earlier this year was, in effect, as I explained to the president, a hard cap. In other words, a very high punitive tariff above that 49,000 level, the MFN tariff below, but an additional requirement that half of that quota, that 49,000 built up over a few years, would be for vehicles $35,000 or less. So we'd get wider variety, wider choice for Canadians, but I'd remind, and you know this, that this is less than 3% of the Canadian car market. So it's quite, a marginal amount, but it gets some Chinese vehicles back in, more choice. And it creates the possibility, not the certainty in any ways, that there is commercial, this commercial relationship develops and there's Chinese investment in Canada. We are only interested in Chinese investment in Canada when it's material Canadian production. We're not interested in kits being put together in Canada. We're interested if there are joint venture partnerships, Canadian controls, substantial value add, Canadian labor standards, substantial jobs, etc., that are consistent with that. Those are longer tail discussions. Those would be some of the discussions Minister Zhou Li is having. You see some of this in, as you say, you see some of this happening in Europe. You see some of this happening I'll double check this with the president of Brazil, but I believe actually in Brazil you're seeing some of this as well.
Why don't you check what's happening in Brazil? Just take a good look, see what's happening there. Just have a peek and look at the human rights violations.
Well, it's not just that, is it? It's the hollowing out of their industrial industry, that their industrial sector of their economy. Again, he assumes that the people he's talking to are just completely stupid and ignorant and don't have a clue about anything going on in the world. Brazil has for years now been the kind of the lesson of how badly things can go if you get into bed with China. I mean, how long does this go back? I don't even know. It's a very, very long time. I remember reading about it in the Financial Times, Bloomberg, all these like totally mainstream, very sort of available publications. This is not like arcane knowledge from the wizard's cave. This is just like out there. Every sort of half-informed person knows this about Brazil. Surely, if you're switched on and you follow international sort of news, geopolitics or whatever, or international business, you know this. And then Carney's just, oh yeah, just like Brazil, Like, he must know this. He must know that Brazil is held up as like the worst case scenario.
And if you don't know, and your people don't know, then you should hire Ian and I to do your PR, right? Because the people doing it have no clue. And look at the way he talks now about Chinese EVs, downplaying it as much as he can. Well, it's maybe a possibility. It's just, don't worry about it. Wasn't it just like a couple weeks ago, electric and connected? We don't need the American auto worker. We don't need that. We're going to build the future of Canada as electric and connected. And we're going to create our own. We're going to sell these cars to the world. And Melanie Joly was asked, to who? And she said, well, I can't say, there's people. It's all a farce. It's all a bloody farce. It's built on a mountain of lies, on sand and the waves coming in. Basically, think of that. You've built this sand castle and the waves on its way. And all those lies are about to just a road away.
Yeah.
And here's the reality of the situation, and here's your chance to be a tough guy in the room as he walks in. You could, because you talk crap about him all the time. Here he is in the room. Let's see how he reacts as he walks into the room.
Hello, I'm the boss. How are you? Good, thank you. Thank you, dear colleagues. Would you like to stay for the meeting? Yes. It's okay with me.
You see a couple of things there, because like Trump says to the press, you can stay. And of course, the rest of them don't want him in there, right? He's like, it's okay with me. And all that nervous laughter as the boss walks in, and they're all just like, hee, right?
They are so pathetic, aren't they? They're such losers.
And then in
Keir
the other
Starmer
room,
was the highlight for me. Where Keir Starmer got a tap on the shoulder. It's the classic tap on the shoulder, but he's walking in that direction. And then he's like, Donald. It was so pathetic. These people are just, how can you respect these people? No wonder Donald Trump doesn't respect them. I don't respect them. I couldn't respect them. Why should he?
When he gets in the room and Macron finally, because Macron's running the meeting because it's in France. He's the, the chair, because like Carney did it in the Kananaskis there. He says, Mr. President, everybody here, because it's just like, they know who the boss is. And Trump he trolls them as he walks in the room. He had that smile. Did you see that smile flash across his face? I'm the boss. He trolls them, and he smiles, and then he goes and taps Keir on the shoulder. Are you listening, Keir? Pay attention now.
As Keir just like talks into his, into his dust trail. It's like, it's just, the whole thing is just so pathetic. It's like one of those 80s movies about high school where like the cool kids and the nerds are like very clearly segregated, and when they interact, it's very obvious who's cool and who's a loser. It's like it's literally like that. It's like Ferris Bueller's Day Off or something like that. It's almost like fiction.
I wonder what Cochrane and the rest think when they watch that, because they're going to play it as it's a different thing, but it must make them wince, because they've got Carney as this like this middle power guy, because here's Carney's chance to jump up and say, we demand respect, we are the middle powers. Nothing, right? Nada.
I think probably what they would say is, oh, that's really smart from Macron and Starmer and Carney. They're making Trump feel like he's the big man. And in reality, they're going to outmaneuver him because they're so much smarter than him, while he's like the drunken elephant crashing off the walls kind of thing. That's probably how they make themselves feel better about it. But, that sort of assumption would require evidence. And I don't see any evidence that Trump is being outwitted by the Europeans.
Where's the evidence? Is there just a shred? Just like a tiny piece? Anyway, here's Trump talking about energy here.
We have a G2 coming up, and then we have a G20 coming up. You know what the G2 is, I think, most of you. But we had in particular some very good conversations with Prime Minister Modi, India, and we're doing trade deals. We're doing a lot of things. A lot of things are happening between the United States and India. The United States is doing the best we've ever done. We have over $19.2 trillion coming in, and we're building factories. We're building everything, and Prime Minister is building a lot in the United States. He's spending a lot of money in the United States, so we appreciate that, jobs. But I just want to say he's been my friend for a long time now, and we've always had a great relationship, and it's great to be with you. Thank you very much. Great to be with you. Thank you.
He got a meeting. He got to sit down. Is he part of the G7? Is he? No.
Might as well be.
But he's part of the BRICS, right? He's part of the BRIC nations, and he got a meeting with DJT.
Says a lot, doesn't it? And also he got my friend. Been my friend for a while. None of that schmaltzy kind of talk for Mr. Carney.
This is the best clip yet, right there, and this sums it up. And then I think we'll be done with this. This is a reporter asking, like, hey, European leaders seem to all react warmly with you. You know, they talk a lot of, you might as well say it, they talk a lot of crap about you behind your back, but when you're here, they're just like, you're the star. You're the bell.
You've seen European leaders interact very warmly with you at the summit. Do you think that they're coming around to your worldview?
Well, I think they think I was right. I'm sort of always right. You know, when you get right down to it, I think they think I was right. They feel good. Now all of a sudden they all want to be involved. There's no reason to have them because it's pretty much over. But they all want to be involved. He'd be involved if I wanted, but we don't want to waste his time or his people. No, the European leaders. The meeting we had today was just the leaders. I don't even say the European. The leaders that we had met with, in addition to the 7, we had quite a few come in. They all were willing to get involved.
Say what you want about Donald Trump. The guy's a machine, man. The guy's a machine. I sleep 5 hours a day. I think I'm a slacker compared to him as far as sleep goes. I don't know. Does he sleep at all?
He was talking about that exact topic because he was saying that Macron invited him to dinner at Versailles. And he was saying he was going to go home, but he thought, bugger it, I'll have dinner at Versailles and then I'll just fly back to Washington early in the morning. And then he said something like, I don't sleep much anyway, so it's not a big deal.
That's what he said, yeah. He's like, I'll go there for a fancy dinner, Versailles. Sounds like a nice place.
I just...
he's a machine.
I mean, there have been studies done because Arnold Schwarzenegger is another person who's said this. Talked a lot about how it's not worth sleeping very long. And Margaret Thatcher is another one.
I do 5 hours a day. I can't sleep more than 5.
Well, the studies that I've read anyway, the studies suggest that it's a genetic thing. And if you have the capacity to sleep that little and still be able to function and be healthy, you're in a minority of something like 5% or 10% or something. I think it's very, very rare. Most people physically require 7+ hours. So I guess Trumpy Poo and you and Arnold Schwarzenegger are all in that happy 5 or 10%.
Arnold Schwarzenegger has a really famous line. He said, people say they need to sleep 8 hours. I say to them, sleep faster.
You can sleep when you're dead.
That's what I always say. It's lots of time to sleep when you're in the box.
I would rather just sleep forever myself. I'm definitely not one of those 5 or 10% people. So,
well, Anita Anand, she's puzzled. She's puzzled. Poor Anita is puzzled on the slave ban. Puzzled. Foreign Minister Anita Anand yesterday could not say how Cabinet's approval of the 278,989 imported Chinese battery electric cars will comply with a federal ban on slave goods. I cannot confirm what will be on the list. This is a scandal of epic proportions, and this is one the Americans are pushing back. This is an attack on the Canadian worker. This is an attack on the American auto worker. Not just auto workers. This is an attack on unions. This is an attack on the worker in general. Allowing slave labor to come in, goods to come into the North American market is an attack on Mexico. It's an attack on everyone, people that have fought for rights, for fair wages. Mm-hmm. It's an attack. And they're pretending like, oh, we don't see it. Michael Ma, have you seen slave labor? Have you seen it yourself?
I mean, that's
pretend all you want. This is what they're trying to do now. They're trying to throw smoke bombs in front of it. There's we don't know what's on the list. So they're doing their typical dance. This is an attack on the workers, and why aren't the workers standing up against it? This is an absolute... The BC Ferry deal is an attack on British Columbian workers. That BC Ferry deal, they said they selected it on price as one of the things. Okay, David Eby. Human rights violations, slave labor, industrial carbon tax, inferior steel and aluminum. How do Canadian workers compete? They can't. They absolutely cannot. You cannot select on price and say that you're protecting Canadian workers. Yet he still has his job. She still has her job. How? And here's a Bloc Québécois MP Alexis Brunel Duceppe. Question how Chinese autos could meet the test. There is forced labor in the supply chain for Chinese electric vehicles. He said This bill gives you the power to draw up the list of products that should be banned. They want a way around it. They want a way around it, and then they're trying to throw smoke in front of it and trying to distract from it.
But how are you going to, well, first of all, how are you going to define slave labor? And then how are you going to inspect the Chinese supply chain to make sure that it's not coming from that? And, is it slave labor still if it's just, they're forced in other ways and kind of like intimidated and pushed into doing it? Is that the same thing as like not necessarily having a sort of chain around someone's neck, but you just create a pressure system that sort of pushes somebody in a certain direction? Like the Chinese hukou system. Does Anita Anand know about the Chinese hukou system? She would probably look at me like I was speaking Martian or something, wouldn't she, if she heard that word? The hukou system is almost like it's almost like quasi-serfdom, where you need permission to reside somewhere. I mean, they're trying to reform it a little bit now, but as it stands, you need permission to go and move to Xinjiang, for example, or out of Xinjiang to Guangdong or wherever it may be, to one of the mega cities. You need permission to do that. Otherwise, you're kind of just locked. You're trapped. You can't leave. You can't, like, there's not free freedom of movement within China. A lot of people don't even know that. But that, in a sense, can be a form of forced labor or something, or like, restricted freedoms. Does that count as slave labor? But they don't give a crap about this. They don't know anything about it. They don't care about it. And as a consequence, the Chinese are going to run rings around them. The Chinese can just exploit their ignorance and their gullibility and foolishness. So any talk of getting rid of slave labor in the Canadian supply chain is, it's not worth even listening to. It's completely phony.
She goes on to talk about middle powers too. We are demonstrating to other middle powers. Like, I mean, she loved that Davos speech. If anybody loved the Davos speech and the UN speech, it was the seal there. Remember at the UN there, where she was just like, she could have got a job at the circus with that performance. And we got a little bit more on Anita Anand here as well. We coughed up another $100 million to UNRWA here, and this is from Shav Majumdar.
Majumdar, I would say.
Let's be clear. Liberal Foreign Minister Anita Anand saw the reports of Hamas ties with UNRWA, and then just gave another $100 million. Why not? Why wouldn't you?
It's almost like what's to be said, what can be said. It's a morally inexcusable decision, isn't it? It's just a filthy decision.
$500 million so far. $500 million. And they know there's problems. It's been pointed out by the Americans many times. Middle powers. This thing is I think we have a lawyer scheduled. We're going to get a constitutional lawyer. I think it's on Thursday here. I'm waiting for the confirmation. I sent it out yesterday. He said he was free Thursday, so we'll see. 2 p.m. on Thursday? That's no. Tories accuse Liberals of trying to ram through lawful access bill. And this is the Tories have lambasted Liberals for attempting to ram through the lawful access bill C-22 that some civil liberties groups have said violates the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. When you ram through legislation over objections and over considerations, law professors and civil liberty groups, you have a problem. And that's from Frank Caputo. This is precisely what the Liberals are trying to do. The Liberals, meanwhile, have argued the law is necessary to protect Canadians. Who's going to protect us from them? And this is Michael Geist pushing back. The government is moving to shut down lawful access hearings in consideration of amendments on mandatory metadata retention, security backdoors, and weakened encryption. All amendments to Bill C-22 would have to be kept secret and voted on without debate.
Who guards the guardians, as the old phrase has it.
And then this is Global News. A privacy expert told Global the Liberals' push to fast-track the bill and limit debate was staggering and astonishing.
I
All
tell you
the
who's
warnings.
interested on this subject and worth reading. I mean, most people probably already have, but Sam Cooper.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting comments on this and similar legislation, saying that if they really wanted to target I can't remember what he said, but like the several thousand people who cause like the vast majority of the problems, they could just do bespoke legislation to get at those people.
Yeah.
But instead, they've done this blanket legislation that covers your granny, who's just got herself an iPhone. Like it covers her as well as the people that supposedly the gangsters and all the rest of it that
And
they're
you and
trying
I,
to target.
right? You and I.
Yeah. Well, I think they look at us as legitimate targets.
Richard Diaz put this out. If you care, we had him on the show. If you care all about freedom of speech and privacy, or worry about an Orwellian government overreach, it's time to write your MP. And it should be more effective than complaining just on Twitter. You have a voice, use it. I mean, this is the time. If you can put up the next tweet there. Nope. There you go. Nope, too far now. Next, there you go. That's there from Richard. And here's one from, I guess, Canada's top tech guy right now, Toby Lutke. Runs Shopify. These bills, along with C-22 and C-9, constitute a total erosion in Canada's basic liberties. They interlock into making Canada essentially unviable for those with choices on where to build. Listen to that very closely, that last sentence. It's so important. They interlock into making Canada, like that. We've had John Carpay on. All these bills put together interlock into making Canada essentially unviable for those with choices on where to build. That means people with the wherewithal, we've talked about this many times on the show, will leave Canada. Will leave. Toby's given enough. He's thrown enough shots across the bow. Shopify, I guarantee they're probably in boardrooms right now. How do we leave Canada?
That's what I read there. I mean, because obviously that describes him and his company, doesn't it?
And then many have said it already. Like many have done this, many have said it. And that's why we're having this strain. And they continue to compress our rights and freedoms. And they use different things. There's something seriously wrong with this government. They do not respect democracy. They do not respect democracy. And it's evident in what they do. I've interviewed, I think it's Lisa Diab, constitutional lawyer, John Carpay. I don't know how many times with John Carpay. We're going to get another lawyer here. We're going to talk about these things. And they're ignoring people, experts. I mean, is there a better expert than Michael Geist on media here in Canada and freedoms? Is there? I don't know. And he's pushing back. Toby Lutke, he's the preeminent tech guy left in Canada, pushing back on it. Google pushed back on it. Apple pushed back on it. Like all the big companies pushing back on it. And yet the liberals headlong into it, right? Headlong into it. Why? Why not worry about crime on the streets? Well, we're going to show you some of that later. Why is this such the focus? C-34, C-36, and C-22. And this is Jacob Mantle, MP. Liberals are trying to ram through C-22 through the House of Commons before the summer. This would mean zero, absolutely zero amendments, zero further debate, and the largest expansion of government surveillance in history. And he says, this is not democracy, this is tyranny. I mean, there's enough people speaking out on it that they should pump the brakes on it. There's enough people speaking out on it. And if you really wanted to do something, you do it bipartisan. If you really wanted to change something as consequential as this, you would have bipartisan support. And they don't. Obviously, they don't. And here's something they could have done a long time ago, yet where is it? This is from Gary himself as well. He said it's extremely close to launching the Registry of Foreign Agents. It's been close forever. Years, right? It's close. This seems simple. A guy with a pen and a paper could do it, no? Register as a foreign agent. It seems like they don't want to register foreign agents. How many people are lobbying? Tim Hortons would be a foreign agent right now because it's a company out of Brazil lobbying immigration, like their HR department. He says we're extremely close to the finish line. That's what the deputy public minister said. Sebastian. How can it take this long? This is something that should have been done. We have foreign agents that aren't registered here in Canada. What was the fine again? It was less than a parking ticket. If you actually, did they say it in this story? It was like $100 or something for failing to register in that. Like parking tickets, there's more severe parking tickets. That's not covered in this story, I don't think, but it's ridiculous.
Shocking.
Shocking. Talk about selling something. This here, we drove this home yesterday. We're going to drive it home here. We're going to overdose. You got to listen to this sentence. Overdose deaths went up with decriminalization of narcotics in British Columbia. We decriminalized, overdose deaths went up. And then fell off once we went back to criminalization of drugs and resumed enforcement of drug laws. So we took off. You can use drugs like BC is the experiment. A failed experiment. Even David Eby said a failed experiment. Yet there's people still like Bonnie Henry fighting for this. And here's, we're going to play these clips here. We want to play both these clips here from this video here.
Because yes, it saves lives, clearly. I've seen it in Vancouver, you know. It's clear, you know, safe consumption site, people out there, the ambulance are coming all the time saving lives. I've seen it by my eyes. But at the same time, I am not the one delivering the services. I'm not the one dealing with the communities. So at the same time that, yes, we know it's an evidence-based model, and I'm not promoting safe consumption side or promoting another model. I need people to be treated and to feel safe and to live. As I already said, safe consumption side, the evidence is clear. It saves life. That's clear. At the same time, I'm the Federal Minister of Health. My department is providing exemptions when provinces and territories are asking to.
That's good. Now I'll play the other clip. That's on the other side of that.
So, as I did say, it is fragile. We've seen a decrease for 2 years in a row, but that follows many years of increases. And the number of overdose deaths are still higher than they were before the COVID pandemic. So while it is encouraging, it is far from over. We have far from solved the issue. So what I want to see provinces, territories, the federal government doing, is making sure that there are many options available for people. When people are using illegal substances, they are at very different points in their lives. They will have different needs. Different communities have different needs. And the programs are only as effective as the support from the communities that are providing that care. So I want to see us having a focus on prevention, a focus on treatment, a focus on harm reduction. All of these different areas need to be supported because each individual and
That's good. Prevention would be the best part there, you know.
But just that comment, it saves lives. Loads of things save lives, don't they? As if like that. The fallacy at play there is this is the only way to save lives. But it ain't, honey. There's lots and lots of ways to save lives when it comes to people being addicted to drugs. And one of the ways, newly released evidence suggests, is to criminalize the possession of certain drugs.
It's not the manufacturing of drugs by the government and selling drugs or giving out drugs. That's failed.
Well, that's what the science suggests, Jim.
That is the failure. Eleanor Sturko here. She's been an advocate for this. I fought hard, along with the others, to end NDP's drug decriminalization and safe supply experiments and move towards recovery because that's the right thing to do. They accused us of increasing stigma. She must have been, you and her must be connected. They said we were spreading misinformation. Now overdose deaths have dropped by a third in BC over the past year, a period that coincides with the NDP ending those drug experiments. Not only must we continue to implement recovery-focused care, we might need accountability for the damage caused by the NDP. I mean, communities, there's so much damage, and the people. I mean, I interviewed many RCMP officers, and especially off the record, saying that, you know, like giving people that were taking drugs that could only access them every now and then because they had to go and actually hunt and get them. And then when they were in these like Cornerstone, when they were getting access, the drugs were on the table. They were laid out on the table and they could take as much as they want. And the one cop I was talking to said that some of them were using 6 times the amount they would use before because it was just like a buffet. And she said it leads to long-term psychosis and that person probably never, ever being able to recover.
Yeah.
And then they're putting in these things, and these are the facts. They're putting these safe consumption sites next to daycares and other areas where young kids are, and they're not asking for ID or anything when these kids come in. You can be 13 years old and walk in.
Well, it causes, you know, there's evidence that it can cause quite serious brain damage. Like overdoses can do that, and habitual use of certain drugs. So yeah, how can you might save someone's life, as in they still have a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But they might have lost themselves, might not be themselves in their head anymore because the drugs have fried their brain. And sadly, I mean, there are a couple of people, including the head of Elon Musk, who are trying to do something about this. But the sad truth is, if you suffer brain damage, there's very, very little that can be done to, you know, rehabilitate you, save you, bring back what's been lost.
And then this is what they offer you. This is MAID. If nothing is done to change the law right now, in 2027, MAID becomes available for people with mental illness. Nothing has to happen other than just nothing. A parliamentary committee comprising MPs and senators set to advise the federal government to indefinitely pause the Liberal Party's plan to expand euthanasia to people whose only condition is mental illness. The outlet said the Special Joint Committee on Medical Assistance in Dying justifies its decision by emphasizing the evidentiary and systemic conditions necessary for safe and equitable implementation cannot presently be met. As things stand, the expansion to mental health illness only euthanasia begins on March 17th, 2027. That's like just under a year away. That is like 9 months away. If nothing happens, this is in place. So people that, like Ian just said, if people like cook their brains on drugs, they can go get this.
Yeah.
Just like
Something
that.
I hadn't thought about, but it's true. Yeah.
Yeah, so if they cook their brains on drugs, they can actually then go get this. What is literally this government doing? Providing drugs and then providing an exit from this planet. There's something wrong.
But also just
something wrong with these people.
It sort of ignores a fundamental truth about our species that I think most of us have figured out now, which is the transition between adolescence and adulthood, particularly, is extremely traumatic and difficult. And many people go through a phase where they think that they don't want to continue anymore. You know, it's not uncommon, particularly, is it? And then there are other periods in your life where that might happen, like if you lose a spouse or something like that, or God forbid, a child or something like that. You know, like there are definitely times in a human's life where it's kind of normal and common.
Almost everybody goes through something at some point.
And to think that the state could facilitate your killing.
Demise.
You know, when you're in this exceptionally vulnerable position, it's absolutely crackers, isn't it? And it doesn't look like it's going to go ahead. I mean, I don't know how they can do it now, but
somebody points out, and then they wanted that we talked about that bill yesterday about this super big, beautiful super bill that allows organ harvesting. So what do you do? Like cook your brain on drugs, go get MAID, and then they harvest you?
Yeah.
Trifecta.
I just I want to respond to Cassie Lake here, who said it's disrespectful to refer to women as honey. And then she thinks that I was talking about the Dr. Reimer or whatever, but I wasn't talking about her. That was directed at the health minister, Marjorie Michel. But no, I accept that it is disrespectful, and I wasn't trying to be a knobhead or anything like that. You know, as you've probably learned if you've watched this for a while, I also refer to men with patronizing language. I didn't mean anything by it, but
Sarcasm.
I agree. It's disrespectful, and I'll drop the honeys because that ain't me. That ain't me, sister.
Sarcasm is you, though.
Yeah, that's what it is. She's like a Haitian aristocrat, the son of Haitian royalty, basically, like a prime minister in Haiti. She is extraordinarily unqualified and rather dim, dare I say it. And she is also, as a lot of these people are, a sort of, you know, stuffed up popinjay. She's very haughty and thinks a lot of herself. And I just like to pop those people's balloons by using patronizing words to refer to them.
When we first started, I'll lay off it. When we first started doing this show, this fine cabinet minister or chief science advisor was our target for sure because of the just the ludicrous amount of money being spent in this whatever Canada's Timu version of Mulder here, the chief science advisor that had penned a report. You can go to the next slide there on looking into the sky there, and because he didn't want stigma for UFOs. This report, I think 21 staff. So Dr. Noma Meaner, she's makes like close to $400K, $393,000 before bonuses and all that other stuff, right? Billed taxpayers, you ready for this? She makes $400K plus bonuses, and 95% of people get bonuses. Billed taxpayers for 12 business class flights to Paris. So her and her entourage, or maybe it's just all her, told MP she couldn't recall flying business class while running up more than $400,000 in expenses. Living high off the hog. And they asked her in committee what she accomplished, and she couldn't even really say what she accomplished, what's getting done. She just said, well, other countries have a science advisor. So this is Spock. This is Spock on the bridge here. Just suckling at the teat of the taxpayer. $400,000. She couldn't remember flying business class, though. So those are all hers, I imagine. $400,000 in flying business class to Paris. Is that where the aliens live? Is that where the UFOs are? Is that where you had to go? Access to information records disclosed yesterday showed Niemer, a University of Ottawa biochemist, within 2 months of her appointment in 2017, billed close to $20K in travel expenses to Montreal, Toronto, Victoria, Washington, Winnipeg, and a $10,000 business class junket to Paris. $415,000. She says she does quite a bit of outreach in her position. I don't know what Spock does. But this is bleeding the taxpayer when record numbers in Canada, send a letter in. When record numbers of Canadians stand in food bank lineups and they brag about giving out groceries and essential benefits to 12 million Canadians. 12%, almost 12% of Canadians now below the poverty line. Canadian taxpayer working half a year right now, almost half a year, to fund this lady who suckles off the teat of you, taking money from you who can't afford it, and then she just abuses the taxpayer. Because she's so important. She is so important. And she penned a report that talked about how she wanted to avoid the stigma of UFOs. Do we care if UFOs have a stigma? Do we care? If they, you know what I mean? It was a report nobody asked for, and she had 21 people work on this report. Nobody asked for it. And we've done a lot of stories on this. It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Did you see this? A Tory MP asks here, did you fly business class? Was it economy or business? And her response was, it's unimportant.
And I don't remember.
It's unimportant how much taxpayers' money I just wasted. That's unimportant. The peasants will always pay. What's important is me. I'm important.
And if we like to do what the Liberals do, if we link this back to some of the other stories, some of these departments were angry and they didn't want to share information because it makes the public angry. When they like the consulate guy there that's in Central Park in an $8.8 million condo with a $4,700 coffee machine. When you point those things out, the electorate gets angry. And now she can't remember. She should be fired on the spot. If Mark Carney had a backbone, just for that answer there, I don't remember and it's not important. It's unimportant. Should be fired on the spot. Any good leader would fire her on the spot for that. It's important to the taxpayer. It's not her money. It's not the Liberal money. It's not government money. It's the taxpayer money. And the taxpayer right now, not in a good spot. This is shameful, disgusting, unbelievable. And they promised to cut costs. That was, remember, with Freeland and Trudeau, and they didn't. They just abused the taxpayer. It's just abuse of the taxpayer. This is Canada's Mulder, whatever you want to call it, at a position we don't need. Because do you think Canada's one that's going to discover aliens? Do you think it's Canada, or do you think maybe it's SpaceX? Do you think it's Spaceballs and this lady here that's going to discover aliens? Like, what purpose does she serve in Canada? Other than bleeding the taxpayer.
$815 hotel in Madrid. $815 a night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that helps you find aliens. Maybe she was meeting an alien in the hotel and it needed to be, she was representing Earth and it needed to be like of a certain standard.
God help us.
Remarkable. But it is phenomenal. I mean, it's fascinating, isn't it? When you look at just the 10 Gs that she dropped on the Paris trip. And then she went to Stockholm and Madrid. That was another 10 grand. $10,000. We've said this before. You know, the average person net contribution to the tax, you know, to the treasury, so to speak, to the collective wealth is I think it's actually in the negative, isn't it? But if you think about it gross, so don't even think about it net, before you get stuff back from the government, just think about the gross taxpayer. It's something like 20 grand, isn't it? So that's something like, so someone, the average, which is massively inflated by the mega rich people, remember, who pay vast amounts of income tax and just tax in general. But if you just think the average person gave, let's say, 20 grand in taxes to the state, and that's what happened to it. A person's entire toil for 365 days. 365 days of toil. And it paid for this woman to go on a couple of fancy trips overseas.
Someone says that we're fake news. I don't know which part's fake. Like, that's what I mean. Like, you're fake news. We got moderators in here. So anybody in blue is a moderator. Thank you for the moderators as well. We appreciate the moderators and the work they do. I also want to shout out to Nicola. She's kicking up our Instagram account. We haven't done anything with our Instagram account because we have a small team, small budget. But Nicola, I think she got a post on our Instagram account. Can you put our Instagram account up there somewhere? I don't know. If you go to the reallybigshow.ca, you can find it there as well. But this is things that people need to push back. If I was Prime Minister, I would walk into her and fire her on the spot. Like right now, I would say you're fired for the abuse of the taxpayer. And I would say everybody else that's done this, you either refund the money or get out. Give the money back to the taxpayer or get out.
But you're already getting 400 grand. You're already getting 400 grand a year.
Plus bonuses.
Just buy your own plane ticket. You like, come on. If it's that essential that you go to Madrid, if it's really that important that you go to Madrid, you can't tune in.
First class.
You can't just get on FaceTime. If it's that important, pay for it yourself.
And the hotel she must have had on the plane too, because I've seen those people sitting in the business class in their little pods. The hotel. If you paid for it yourself, you deserve it. But if you paid for it with taxpayer money,
well, we're already giving you 400 grand of taxpayers' money. Like, that's kind of the point, isn't it? Plus bonuses. Like, we're already giving you huge amounts of taxpayers' money. And if you line up all the taxpayers in a year, and if you don't think about it in terms of numbers of $400,000, but you think about it in terms of taxpayers, how many taxpayers, you could line them up, put them in a parking lot, how many would be there? You could have a little army, you could have a little squadron of people whose entire tax contribution just goes into that woman's bank account. Like, put faces on these numbers, and imagine it as all these people lined up. It's just, what a piss take.
This has to stop. There's no accountability. If you want accountability, you got to change this government out, because this government, I mean, Mark Carney himself, how much has he spent on his trips with his fancy butter, Nomad butter, and fancy food? Like his jet bill there is absolutely, it's by example. And Trudeau's the same thing with his, spending in that fancy night, and they wouldn't tell us who stayed in that room. I mean, it was pretty obvious that was Trudeau, $6,000 a night for Justin. They don't care. The media doesn't hold them accountable either. They played with us for forever on that.
You talk about Carney on these flights. What about Cochrane? How much did it cost us to send Cochrane there? Like, if there's anybody more useless than this woman, it's him.
The new Governor General, though, Louise Arbour, yesterday in one of her first acts of office, notified MP she's cutting her clothing allowance. They shouldn't have a clothing allowance. Buy your own goddamn clothes. Arbour's predecessors were sharply criticized for billing thousands for shoes, silk jackets, and other products. Just bleeding the taxpayer. Just abuse of the taxpayer.
Also, Blacklock's, I'm going to disagree with Blacklock's here. They say she was sharply criticized. By who? By you? By Blacklocks? I mean, yeah, you did. But the sad reality is she wasn't really sharply criticized, was she? In general, like, there wasn't intense criticism in the mainstream, which is kind of, that's the problem. That's why she was able to do it.
Yeah, so the Governor General, Mary Simon, in 15 months billed taxpayers almost $40,000 for outfits, including a $1,200 silk jacket. What?
So they cite in this article conservative MPs. So they're the Blacklock's conservative MPs and some people on Twitter criticized this, basically. So the usual crowd.
Because we're a little long in the tooth, I'm going to skip that electric vote thing. CTV News, another 700 jobs gone from Bell. You know what I mean? Bell, like the Canada's most popular news outlet. You know how many I mean, we could go back and lay off. I mean, their radio stations basically have no staff in them. We just basically have robots in there. Most of the syndicated stuff. Let's play this little clip here as they talk about their own demise.
Bell Canada's parent company BCE is cutting nearly 700 jobs. The company says the reductions represent approximately 1% of BCE's total workforce, affecting about 690 positions, including approximately...
That's good. They did 4,800. It was a couple of years ago. 4,800 employees right before Christmas. And they did a whole bunch right before they did their Bell Let's Talk thing too, and I think they got criticized for that. Like, their timing of their layoffs is just wild. Before Christmas. And then the one that Bell Let's Talk, that's like their Let's Talk one is on Mental Awareness Day. It's just like, you want some mental awareness? Here, you're fired.
I mean, I was going to make a comment about the expansion of MAID, but I won't. Let that linger there.
And here it is, a reporter getting caught on the mic. We'll tell it to you if it comes across pretty soft. But let's listen to this.
Free food, they get the government gives them food allowances, they give them, that's just like, and then people are sick of it. They're working 10 jobs trying to get the same shit.
There you go. See? There you go. These people, Mark Carney spent $1 million on airplane food. And Ian's point, this reporter finally realizing it, that some people have to work 10 jobs to get this, and people are getting sick of this shit. People are getting sick of it. Like, they're literally taking food off your table. Like, food off your table, you worked hard for your family. They're taking it off your table. And then they're just wallowing in it like pigs. Like pigs.
Well, money that you would spend on food, they're taking it out of your pocket and instead spending it on Normandy buttercups or whatever for the Prime Minister. Yeah, I mean, it's grotesque.
Money that you would buy KD with, like the good stuff, the craft dinner, the good stuff, and then they're taking it and collecting it from hundreds and thousands and millions of you, and they're having like filet and all kinds of strange things. $1 million in plain food. No respect for the taxpayer whatsoever. None.
But there's also a lot of people that work in the public service will be looking at that and saying like, hold on, Mark Carney, obviously he's the Prime Minister and all that, but he is also a public servant, isn't he? And they must look at it and think like, just like me. And yet the last time I went on a work trip, I had to go and buy like something from Subway or something. It's like, why this like special magnificent treatment? I mean, I know the answer to it, but there is a moral question there to be asked.
Well, it comes from the leadership and it goes down. Because I can tell you right now, if you have a different place, and I went to a mine site. I was a mine site controller. Before I got there was $1,000 bottles of wine on the expense reports. And I said, no, we're not paying for any alcohol. We're not paying for any movies that are over $7.99 in your hotel rooms. We're not paying for magazines. And I just said, we're not paying for any of that stuff. This money is shareholder money. This isn't like some vast amount of money. So it comes from the people that run the purse. Like you can do that. You can say, no, we're not paying for that. Because it was absolute abuse. When I got there, there was no controls. Anybody on site could order whatever they wanted. And we were burning $10 million a month. Anybody on site. No POs, no sign-offs, no nothing. That's what we have right now with the Liberal government. People look at the top and they say, well, if he's doing it, I can do it. What's the difference? Pigs will be pigs. This is where we started our show on media and the lack of access to guys like me and Ian. We do tons of interviews. We interview as many people as we can. Like we have interview requests out there all the time. Right now, we probably have 20 interview requests out there, many to Liberal MPs and NDP. Tons of them out there right now. David Eby, you're listening? They're out there. You don't even respond. Mark Miller. Tons of them. Mark Carney, we've asked. Pierre Poilievre, we're waiting. We're getting answers at least. You know, like, we got you on the list. Okay. J.D. Vance goes on basically the Witches of Eastwick here. This is the show, like, I don't even know how this is on the air anymore. This is like the Poison Palace. I don't know whatever you want to describe it. I don't understand who watches this. Like, the only reason I see it is every now and then is because, like, especially this Sunny Hostin, she's vitriol, like she's crazy. And Whoopi, Whoopi did a good job on Star Trek, but I think she left most of when she materialized. They left a piece of Whoopi on.
Well, she's in a lot of like great entertainment. She's also one of the hyenas in The Lion King, as well as Guinan.
Was she in the
Star
Color?
Trek, and
Color,
then
whatever. What was that movie? The Color or something? Color
Purple.
Color Purple. That's what it was.
Yeah, I think she was in that.
Yeah,
she was. Yeah, she actually, all in all, she's had a pretty good career, but sadly, she just does this.
Let's play this. Let's play this clip here, and J.D. Vance holds it together.
Did have a criminal record. They had a sex trafficking conviction.
Don't have criminal records. So the majority of people that ICE is rounding up and taking out of their homes from their families, they're separating families. They're using children as bait.
But
the majority are not criminal.
But can I respond to that, guys? Let me just say this. Okay, so you talk about the children. Here's what I'd say. Do we know that during the last administration, we had tens of thousands of children who were sex trafficked by the cartels, who were brought into our country in profoundly dangerous and predatory conditions?
Let's talk about this administration.
But here's the point. Unless you enforce the border, you invite that kind of conduct. You think that our immigration policies are inhumane based on the reporting of one person with a political bias. What I'm telling you is that it's inhumane to allow cartels to sex traffic people across our border. And by the way,
please hold on.
I appreciate that. We're going to get you back, Anna.
We're coming back with.
You got to give that guy a medal for going on there. Like, that's basically assault. Yeah. I mean, just good job on
that
Jason.
Position, the way he's seated as well. like the Last Supper, but
Yeah.
instead of it being Jesus, it's like
He's supper.
the devil.
He's supper. He's literally supper.
No, I think, like, for real, that I don't mean it to be flippant. Like, I admire that immensely that he did that.
Courage.
I have a
Courage.
huge amount of admiration for that. Because, you know, being surrounded by so many very, very angry people, and also to go back to dangerous territory vis-a-vis feminism and stuff, it's a particularly difficult situation to be in as a man, I have to say, surrounded by, like, what was it, eight hostile women on either side of you on live TV as they sort of shout highly emotive fake news at you and basically say that you're killing the kids. Like, that is, for a lot of men and for a lot of people in general, a lot of women as well, that is like the worst possible experience in life, basically. And he just did it very smoothly and very competently. So very, very impressive.
The Right Honorable Prime Minister Mark Carney, we invite you onto the show for an hour, at least an hour, 2 hours if you can. We'll give you a medal after for courage for coming on. We'll be respectful. Our questions will be based in facts, and it would be appreciated, and the Canadian public would appreciate it. You to do an interview with independent media. We're an accredited media, even by your organization, your scheme that you set up. We're an accredited media outlet. So come on there and prove that you'll answer to Canadians. We're accredited. We won't be friendly, but we won't be disrespectful. Like, we'll be better than The View. I can tell
Miles
you.
better.
No.
It would be so much easier. So, like, you can't compare the two. That's like the Dragon's Den, isn't it? I mean, that's about as tough as it gets for a Republican official, just to be berated by these hostile parties.
And then he went on another show that I think he went on, Rachel Matt. Like, he went on a tour of just outlets that are unfriendly to the Republican Party, and especially to Donald Trump. Like, he went on a tour. Like, they do that. Trump does it too.
He's doing a service to the country as well. Right. That's not just about him and the Republican Party. That's for the sake of the whole country.
Yeah.
Because American partisan divisions are so extreme now that this sort of thing just doesn't really happen. Like, this would be the equivalent of what's the Republican equivalent of that? I guess that it would be Kamala Harris going on some sort of masculine manosphere podcast. Can you imagine that happening? I don't think so.
Well, they won't. They won't even go on. They won't go on anywhere that's not friendly. They won't even go on Bill Maher. He said it. They won't even come on Bill Maher because
who's a liberal and a Democrat.
Yeah, they're scared of Bill Maher. He said, "I can't get it." He said, "I can get any Republican I want. I can phone up and they'll come on." He said, "I can't get Democrats to come on." He said, like the fringe ones, sure, but he said, "I can't get them to come on." We played that clip. I think it was a month ago. Look at this. This is social media surpasses TV as a dominant source. No shocker there. Shock me. Trust in news falls to 37%. You did that, CBC. You did that, CNN. So why are we paying so much money to the CBC? You can put it up full screen there. Why is CBC getting so much money? I think their audience share is like 1.6% of Canada. 1.6.
We need to give them extra money because the Liberal Party ensured that news was blocked on the biggest social media website. So CBC has to work extra hard now to get any attention at all. Maybe that's why.
So even CBC, I mean, I grew up with CBC as a kid. It's the only station we had. Actually, we had rabbit ears, and we didn't have, like fancy stuff. So we had rabbit ears and CBC. And Hockey Night in Canada was one of the #1 things on CBC. And here's the end of Hockey Night in Canada as well. There you go, since 1952, right?
Wow.
There you go.
So that's the Snowbirds and Hockey Night in the same year.
Hockey Night in Canada no longer air, and no longer air on CBC after the current season, ending a tradition since 1952. And that's Sportsnet had that deal with them, right? Because Sportsnet bought the rights to Hockey Night in Canada. And Don Cherry also fired from the CBC, right?
Over can you remember what it was? Like the tiniest thing.
Just, yeah. It was
people not wearing the
poppy or something. Yeah, it was the screaming cancel culture that works so well. I mean, they have this trained group of screamers, and they went after him, and the CBC kowtowed. But they don't kowtow for the nut jobs. I'm going to leave the BC stories because we're going to have Renee Merrifield in later here. I'll leave that for Renee. Kevin Warsh should be speaking any time now, right? Like, is he speaking right now? It's 2 o'clock. Is it 2 o'clock out where you are right now? I think it is, isn't it?
9 minutes past 2.
Is the decision come down? You need to take a look at Kevin's Fed decision. Should have come down at 2 o'clock. He spoke at 2 o'clock.
Let me have a look.
It
doesn't start till 2:30.
It says, I got the brief right here. Fed officially paused rate cuts until 2027. So, looks like they're on hold.
CNBC is miles behind. They're saying it doesn't even start till 2:30. There we go.
He's 21 minutes into his 21 seconds in, saying that they're pausing.
Exciting. That's the last time I go on CNBC for my news.
Well, I mean, we should wait to get confirmation here on that. So we'll wait. Should be coming out anyway.
What's the worst that could happen?
What's the worst that could happen? But I mean, rate increases, I think that's off the table, especially if the oil starts flowing. Rate increases off the table in the United States. You can put that one in your pipe and smoke it. Looks like Frankie there. Frankie Freed, Sam Bankman Frankie. There's looking for a pardon, right? And he appealed, and they said, no, you can go back to the Huskow. He built a few people out of, the next slide there. Nope, that one, there you go. Sammy. Sammy and his girlfriend. That was a weird court case, eh? It's like kids with backpacks. He literally walked in. I talked to my buddy who was in finance, right? Like high finance. And where he was in the room with a lot of these big deals. And he said, nobody, he said, you and I could have walked in there, you and I could have walked into, like Wall Street or whatever and pitched this thing, and they wouldn't have taken us seriously because we came in suits and that, right? This guy walks in with a backpack. He had that signature look backpack, baggy shorts, talked about how he knew all these, algorithms and that, and they're just like throwing cash at him like it was crazy. Even Mr. Wonderful was caught up in this as well, right? He was a shill for the Sam Bankman-Fried's FTX scheme, right?
Yeah, he's one of a very rare specimen. And his girlfriend, I don't know if he's still gone out with her, but whatever, that girl that he was associated with back then.
No, they went at each other. Yeah.
Those two people had the very exceedingly rare ability to cause physical discomfort to me inside of my body just by looking at them. Just a glance, like a 2-second glance, is enough to make my stomach turn.
They also had you've seen what it was a bunch of young urchins or whatever, and they had sexual it was like debauchery at best, right? Do you know what I mean? And plus they were bilking people for billions of dollars at the same time. Like they were running a Ponzi scheme. They would buy and sell from FTX to the Bitcoin. It was just this pyramid scheme, and it was just all just crazy. And the parents of this young fella were I think Harvard, were they Harvard or Yale? Anyway, some Ivy League school, and they were profs at this thing, and they got some of the money. Obviously. Shared in some of that wealth, and they were trying to go after their houses, and you know what I mean? They were trying to protect the money that, the son had taken from others, right? Wow.
Gross.
Talk about gross. You remember yesterday we played that clip of our friend there, the used car salesman, Gavi? He was blaming Donald J. Trump, saying Trump is after him because it's rigged. It's because I'm on run for president. Well, CNN, the leftist outlet, says, Hold on a sec, Gab. You may be lying. Let's play this little clip here.
Jennifer Siebel Newsom, the wife of California's governor and potential 2028 presidential contender, Gavin Newsom, is currently under federal investigation for possible tax crimes. The full scope of the investigation into the first partner is unclear. The documentary filmmaker founded Representation Project, a nonprofit focused on gender equity in media.
I love championing and focusing on uplifting and supporting women and girls.
She also owns a film production company called Girls Club Entertainment, which is listed as a contractor on the Representation Project's tax returns. And she co-founded the California Partners Project, a nonprofit that works to get more women onto corporate boards, address the gender pay gap, and make tech safer for children. Critics have raised the possibility of self-dealing for years, despite no public evidence of wrongdoing. While it is unclear what exactly investigators are focused on, they have recently interviewed potential witnesses, including people close to the first couple. Sources tell CNN that the governor is not directly under investigation, but he has framed the probe as politically motivated and targeting him.
Donald Trump isn't just coming after me because of my mean tweets. He's coming after me because I'm considering running for president.
The tax probe is not the only recent investigation into someone in Newsom's orbit. His former chief of staff, Dana Williamson, was recently prosecuted related to corruption. She pleaded guilty to 3 charges earlier this year. President Trump has made it clear he wants his Justice Department to pursue his political enemies. Just last year, he called for Newsom to be arrested and has attacked him repeatedly.
He's ruined California. He gives health care to anybody.
CNN has learned the current investigation was launched last year by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Sacramento based on a whistleblower report. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche declined to answer questions Monday on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, that's good.
Started to waffle on there, didn't they, CNN?
Yeah. Who's there, though? Oh, I did not have it. Oh, yeah, the next image there. Guess who's visiting Gavi? Who's that? Who that guy? Who's that guy? I thought
what was interesting, there's a video, isn't there? And you can, like, usually these people, when they speak in public, they kind of like hide their mouths, don't they? So that they can't, so nobody can read their lips. But Trudeau was almost trying to show people what he was saying, whereas Gavin Newsom was like, yeah man, like, you know, he was like getting really close. Don't know what just he's playing out there. I guess I don't know if anyone's actually translated his lips yet, but maybe he was getting a message out to Trump or something.
Someone should get a message out to Dr. Noma. Noma, what's her last name again? Noma Mir? Sorry, Dr. Noma. There's an alien. There's an alien there. Let's listen to the alien. She's speaking.
He made a terrible mistake. He made a terrible mistake for himself, his legacy, and for the country. He had said that he would not run again. And, you know, counterfactual narratives are always a bit tricky. But I believe if he had kept to that plan and said in, say, the late summer of 23 that he wasn't going to run, that he was going to pass, you know, the torch to the next generation, we would have had a real contest. And very sadly, I believe whoever emerged from that contest, whether it was the vice president or a governor or a senator or anybody else, would have beaten Donald Trump. He made a terrible mistake.
That's good. I couldn't resist. She's back. It's like Poltergeist. She's back.
But they said he made a mistake. Again, there's just no recognition that America and even her wretched political party, the Democratic Party, is, you know, basically a democracy. So it's not like you can't just blame Joe Biden. People selected Joe Biden. And people in the party, you know, the big hitters, decided to bow out. You know, it wasn't just like Joe Biden's choice, you know? Lots and lots of people were involved in that. But as usual, she has a sort of rant against any kind of system that involves voting and blames individuals, you know, rather than just being honest and telling us all what she really thinks, which is that she absolutely hates the peasants having a vote. She doesn't like that idea. She doesn't like that concept.
Yep. Someone saying in the comments that the Hockey Night in Canada will be replaced with Cricket Weekend. It might be replaced by the Hunger Games. This is the part where we get a little punchy for sure. This is the end of the show, and where you have to fight for that box of KD, and everybody else has to give their money to Dr. Niemer. That's what it is. I think it's Mona Niemer. Give her the money so she can fly off to Paris and first class or business class yet, business class. And then
forget whether you went on business class.
And then forget that, you know, she couldn't remember if she's sitting in the back with the rest of the dregs or if she was sitting in front in a pod. She couldn't remember in that 12-hour flight. Hey?
How many glasses of champagne did you have? That'll jog your memory.
On this day in history, 1775, the Battle of Bunker Hill in the American Revolutionary War. Colonialists inflicted heavy casualties on British forces in one of the war's early major battles. See, that's what Ian was talking about earlier. Battles go both ways. It became a symbol of the American resolve with a famous order: don't fire till you see the whites of their eyes.
Yeah. Somebody, in one of the comments to one of our videos, somebody was talking about the Revolutionary War, so-called Revolutionary War, and saying it was directed at me and saying something like, yeah, your ancestors got killed in that war or something like that. I can't remember. That rather misses the point. My ancestors, since my DNA is mostly British, my ancestors were doing the killing on both sides of that war because it was a civil war between the same people. So, you know, yeah, my ancestors died fighting for America, or my sort of relatives, so to speak.
And then
as fighting for Britain.
some of the
lot more complicated than people think. Like they retroactively have this idea of like the American team were like modern Americans now, and they spoke like Americans and acted like Americans. No, they were Englishmen.
Yeah.
They were two sets of Englishmen killing each other over ideas.
Some of the most important Englishmen that ever existed on this planet that created the freest democracy in the world. Guys like Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and many others. George Washington. You know, those kind of people. Those kind of people.
Alexander Hamilton even, though he's a bit more controversial.
Also, in 1972, if we could rewrite history, it would be Jim and Ian snuck into Parliament and got access to the Liberal National Committee headquarters. But it was actually 5 men linked to President Nixon's re-election campaign were arrested for burglarizing the Democratic National Committee headquarters at Watergate Complex in Washington, D.C. This sparked the scandal that led to Nixon's resignation in 1974. Imagine if we could get in there and get access to some of those records. This stuff, you know, Holly Doan has to, you know, like scratch and claw, and some of it gets released 2-3 years later. Even when we asked for some records on just social media spending, they said you can have it in about a year. Hey, it's like, okay. Also in 1994, who can't remember? Do you remember this? I watched this live on TV at the time when I still watched TV. Don't watch it anymore. O.J. Simpson chase, the slow motion chase, right? In the white Bronco. And if you haven't seen it in live, then you can watch it over and over again because it was, look at all the cops, and it was like at such a slow speed. It was the lowest speed chase ever. And
never ever forget that.
If you can find
while
that
you're watching it, never forget that a jury found him not guilty of the murders that he committed.
Their biggest faux pas was the dried out glove, leather glove, which we know shrinks when you just leave it soaked in blood or whatever, and then they tried to put it on and it didn't fit them, and they're just like, see, doesn't fit. Let's play the clip here, the slow motion chase, because why not, eh?
Guess as to why not. Right, I guess they're just being
They
careful.
may fear that there are arms in that car. They may fear that Simpson may harm
Unbelievable.
himself.
But I mean, they might pan out at someone. If you keep playing, you can let the volume go there. I think that's Larry King.
Proceeding with a great deal of caution here.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Now they are northbound on I-5. That's a correction. We had said southbound on I-5. Now they're northbound on I-5. That would make them heading toward L.A.
They're northbound, they're southbound, they're all kinds of bounds.
Now police radio.
But this is the thing, Orenthal, James Simpson, he had too high of an opinion of the of his fellow American. He didn't realize that his fellow American was so extraordinarily racist that they would find him not guilty of murders that he obviously committed based on race.
That's good.
The great shock. I mean, that was the shock of that you could murder people. It could be that obvious, and then you could go to trial. And if the jury had the right ethnic composition, they would find you not guilty, just to kind of like screw the white man or something like. But O.J. Simpson, as he's driving away, he doesn't realize that. He doesn't realize that a racist jury will find him not guilty, and he can't think. He's like, shit, I just murdered these two people. Like, I'm going to go to jail for the rest of my life. No, O.J., a racist jury has got your back. Don't worry. Stop, pull over, let the trial commence, and all will be well.
Iceland declares itself a republic, ending its union with Denmark. And yet they're making such a big deal of Greenland maybe doing it, right? Because there it is in 1944. It's just like Iceland said, nah, we don't want to do this no more. And here's a cool one. 1579, Sir Francis Drake lands in California and claims New Albion for England. That's from King Arthur himself. New Albion.
It's really cool around there. It's like north of San Francisco. There's like a park there called Reyes or something. Reyes Park. I can't remember what. Or Point Reyes National Seashore. And that's just over the Golden Gate Bridge on the north side. There's loads of cool stuff about Franny Drake there. Very, very interesting.
Does that reference New Albion originate with King Arthur, or is that even prior to Arthur? You would know.
The term Albion, do you know what? I don't actually know.
I know that
me, bro.
Arthur was seeking Albion.
Okay, so this makes sense. I did actually kind of know. Because Scotland is referred to as Alba, and it just derives from that. So it's from the old Celtic language, you know. It's a derivative of Alba. Alba, I think, means white as well.
Like paradise kind of thing.
Yeah, it does. Because our good friend Dan Albas, his name is probably Scottish, I would assume, and it probably means white in Celtic languages. So there you go. It's Celtic. So that is indeed King Arthur. Although he was Romano-British. So I don't know if are we supposed to think of him as speaking Latin? But I mean, his ethnicity or whatever, his origins would have been the same, you know, Celtic, basically.
It's National Eat Your Vegetables Day. And it ties right into the other one, Global Garbage Man Day, because most kids are throwing their vegetables right in there, the garbage man. So he gets on Vegetable Day, he gets that homage as well. And for the Germans out there, it's National Apple Strudel Day. Strudel Day. And National Root Beer Day.
Nice. I
used to like a good root beer. A&W had some of the best root beer. I don't drink that stuff anymore.
No, root beer is great, but strudels is what I was on it. Strudels, I feel I'd rather just have an apple pie if I was going to have an apple or something.
Apple?
Strudels. Like, why complicate it with a strudel?
I got my fancy vest on. I like it. It's cooler for the summer. I'll have to get you a vest there, eh? Vesties?
It's a waistcoat.
Waistcoat? Is that what it's called? Waistcoat? Waistcoat?
It's a waistcoat, but they would in the olden days. That's what they'd say. Waistcoat. Where's my waistcoat?
There you go. I had asparagus yesterday. Good for you. Look at that. Diggsy had some asparagus. Nice. I like my vegetables. Vegetables are good
Somebody
for you.
wants me to say strudel like a German. Strudel. Strudel. That's how they say it, isn't it? That's how Ursula von der Leyen would say it.
Yeah, well, you know, only Ursula can afford strudel. And Dr. Noma Meaner. That one should go back to over, and thanks, Diana. That's ridiculous. Mark Carney, $1 million in plane stuff, and Dr. Noma Meaner saying, hold my beer. First class flights that she forgets she was on. You remember, like if you're flying in those what you call it, those cocoons in the business class, or if you're sitting in the back with the rest of the dregs, you'd remember where you were sitting on a 12-hour flight. You'd remember. Thanks, Heidi.
I'm just reading this article here on Albion since I wasn't able to answer that question, so I'm trying to get the information. And apparently, New Albion was a name suggested for Canada around the time of Confederation. They were saying, let's call this country New Albion. Imagine that. Imagine Justin Trudeau talking about being a citizen of New Albion.
So Kevin Warsh, the decision's out, but they changed the statement. I'm just trying to find something that summarizes here, and we'll give you that before we take off here. No change, which was what's expected, no change in interest rates, but the removal of key language indicating a bias towards future cuts and dramatically shorter policy statement. So, I mean, they're holding steady, and I know they want to see what happens with oil. I mean, as energy goes, as everything goes. That's it. If energy comes off, the American economy is pretty hot right now too, right? The American economy is pretty hot. The Canadian economy, not so much. Like you raise interest rates in Canada, you might as well stick a knife in it and call it done. It's two different economies. We have high unemployment, and we have a stumbling economy. They have lower unemployment and an economy that's firing on like almost all cylinders. They're pro-energy, pro-investment, pro-deregulation. We're almost the opposite of almost everything, right? We are anti-energy, pro-regulation, and pro not projects, like pro don't do anything. What's it like a safety meeting in Canada? It's a safety meeting. Nobody moves and nobody gets hurt. That's like a project here. Nobody does anything, and nobody has to protest. Just don't do anything. That's it. I'm back at noon. That's in 30 minutes with, I'm not sure if we're going to do it live or run it. Because again, a reminder that Ian and I won't be on next week. We might run some interviews into next week or some older shows or something like that. We'll see what we can do. And then the following week, I'll be doing some interviews. Ian's off for 2 weeks. I'm going to go down to the States. I might do some recaps while I'm down in the States too, to show you that I'm hoping it's not, what the CBC portrays it as. I'm pretty sure it's not. I've been down there a few times already. Pretty sure it's going to be amazing. Going to have my blue license plate there that says I'm from British Columbia. So see if I get attacked. Again, I don't believe so. Anyway. There you go. On the Veda says we need different color vests. We'll work on it. We'll work on our budget. How's that? Thank you.
Western budget.
Thank
and
you.
We'll get top hat.
Top hat. The women don't like it when you put a hat on. The hat will do me good. When I started doing this stuff, I was wearing a hat, and people were just like, "You got to take the hat off." So. Anyway.
Yeah, they didn't like your necklace or something, didn't they? Or was it your rings? Something that they were complaining about. Jewelry.
Anyway, we got to go. That's my boss calling me there. Got to go. I'll see you at noon, or maybe not. I'm not sure what's going on. We'll figure out what we're going to do with the Renee Merrifield. But I'm doing Renee Merrifield at noon. We might play it later, though. I'm not sure if we're going to try something here. But me and Ian will be back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. PST for Thursday's show. Bring some friends. Bring a lot of friends. Bring the whole nation. Bring the whole nation. Send a letter to Dr. Noma Meaner and say, you need to go. Give the money back. Cheerio. Peace.